Oh no, they're coming to get us. They're coming to get us. Look at Kerry Stokes's rag, the nightly, a big nasty dragon from the north breathing fire right at Sydney and Brisbane. Sign of intent. Redland of the SMH's a Red Alert series, care of the think tank sector, funded by the weapons sector. Red Alert. Be alarmed, not alert. Now, if you want the true story, of course, of what has happened this week, rather than the beat up, check out former submariner Rex Patrick, who points out, we quote Rex, the fact is that the Chinese vessels, a destroyer, a frigate, and a replenishment ship, presumably a supply ship, are operating in accordance with international law and simply doing to us what we've done to them for decades. Readers will remember a number of recent incidents in which the Chinese military confronted Australian military assets conducting maritime operations in areas of interest to China. Yep, thanks for that, Rex. We've been cavorting around the Taiwan Straits and the South China Sea with the Yanks, doing naval exercises, and now they're down in our part of the world. They're not going to invade us, don't worry, not just yet. Now, this is not to say that we should not be alert. Indeed, we should be alert. And this is not to say that we should not build a defensive capability or rebuild it. The 20 years of defence contract bungling, as chronicled in our pages many times by Rex, and then the harebrained AUKUS deal has left us as a nation, as Rex Patrick puts it in this piece, and he would know, not prepared for battle. We are not battle ready. It's been a debark, and a very expensive debark. Indeed, the Chief of the Defence Force has advised the Senate this week that despite having a budget this financial year of $58 billion, it was a Virgin Australian pilot that first advised the Australian government that the People's Liberation Army's Navy was conducting live fire exercises off the east coast of Australia. A Virgin Australia airline pilot. What's the scam with Pine Gap? They're too busy scoping out the Gaza Riviera project for Israel? Who knows? Just a quick house ad. We're nearly at 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. Apparently it's a bit of a benchmark, so if you can hit the bell, like and subscribe, that would be much appreciated. Help us get to 100,000. Apparently you get a plaque or something, but it will extend our reach. It will help get the message out there. Meanwhile, in the White House presser on Friday morning, Donald Trump, where Donald Trump was meeting with the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, the Donald was asked about AUKUS, to which he replied, "What does that mean?"
Discuss AUKUS, sir. We've been discussing AUKUS with the Australians and the Brits. Were you discussing AUKUS with the Prime Minister, sir?
What does that mean?
AUKUS, the Australia-US Defence Alliance.
Yeah, well, we'll be discussing that.
While the Murdoch press was trying indefatigably to keep its narrative on track about the horrific outcomes, yes, they use the word horrific, which would occur if people voted for the Teals and the Greens, claims echoed indeed by the right-wing nutjob lobby groups such as Advance Australia, all across the digital sphere. It was all a bit derailed this week by the Peter Dutton scandal. The maestro of the share market dropped from Labor. Yes, Peter's majestically intuitive decision to wade into the market just before the bank bailout and buy a swag of shares in CBA, Westpac and NAB, then sell them for a heroic profit a couple of weeks later. Well, the tempers were fraying in the estimates rooms between Liberal and Labor, all sorts of accusations flying around. The word order was belted out quite a few times. This was being pronounced a lot this week, the word order, as the Libs attacked Labor for muckraking. You can check that out on our previous video, the coverage of these allegations. Adding to the melee were revelations hard on the heels of the share market, feats in Nine Entertainment about Peter Dutton's $30 million property empire. Looking rich, of course, in politics is not an asset. It sort of disturbs that narrative of the humble Queensland copper. But we thought the shovel had the best take in this week's media about Peter's property portfolio. Housing crisis worsens as Peter Dutton reveals he may never own his 27th home. Bravo to the shovel. It puts shade certainly on Albo's Copacabana beach shack. Now, meanwhile, Qantas handed down a $1.4 billion profit for the half year, just for the half year, and resumed paying dividends. Shareholders were ecstatic. The share price was up. Yes, the fleet is a little bit old, as our aviation correspondent Michael Sainsbury said this week. It was great to see the mangy old ruse culture of rewarding shareholders and executive bonuses over customers continues. One day, even taxpayers may get a look in. But to give the government credit, hard on the heels of the Qantas announcement, the profit announcement, just when they were just not in a position to whinge at all, really, to threaten to pull roots because of the sheer size of the profit, the government took the unusual step and introduced competition to the aviation market. Well, a little bit, by allowing a foreign airline, Qatar, to take a 25% stake in Virgin Australia. What's that? What's that competition thing going on? That's not for big business. That's just for like kids' sporting teams, isn't it? Anyway, it's a good move by the government. Credit where credit's due. Credit to the boys and the girls. That was announced by Lucky Jim Chalmers, who was on tour in the US, the treasurer with Australia's money men, the fat cats of superannuation, who were on a road show in America to sell Australian money to the US. Here, come and have some of our money, invest in you. And we've got plenty of it, you see. This was the problem. As evinced in the financial pages this week, we've got too much money in superannuation. It's too big for the ASX. The ASX, the share market, is actually shrinking thanks to takeovers. It's very concentrated too. The valuations are too high. We have to diversify, which is a good thing, and go and invest offshore. Let's just hope it's not just in the US. The share market, too concentrated by a few big banks and a couple of miners. We're full up. So the trillions will have to be diverted elsewhere from superannuation, or we're going to have a rethink of the system, perhaps. Let's hope a bit of it goes to emerging markets. The superannuation conundrum. There is another conundrum, of course, going on. ASIC sallied forth this week on this conundrum, the mighty watchdog. Billions are going into private investments from our superannuation sector. I mean, you can see public markets. You can open up the ASX and have a look at what's going on, buyers and sellers, and you get their annual reports and so on for free, but there's all these private investments springing up everywhere, chasing yield. And so it was that the ASIC came forth and gave a little bit of a warning that they were going to have a review into the private credit market. It's because the banks are only keen to lend to the sure thing, which is Australia's residential property market. They don't like lending to business much, small business. And so it is that these private credit operators are bobbed up around the place, packaging up debts, the private credit sector. It's opaque, you can't see what's going on, and they package up this high yield stuff, and then the fund managers buy it. So we're all exposed via our superannuation. Problem is, of course, because it's not transparent, can't see what's going on, it could be a bubble waiting to burst. Remember the last one? The CDOs that took down Wall Street, the collateralized debt obligations, those fancy derivatives. That was just credit, another debt bubble. It does have faint echoes of bubbles of yore, but you can be sure when it does blow up, or if it does blow up, we'll be saying, I told you so. Done a little bit on this, not enough. So if we have time or are still about after this bloke from the government gets through suing us, we will do something on that. The latest is the government's ducking for cover on that particular issue. You can check it out in the link. They know nothing, they say, about what's going on with this. So scam of the week goes to just simply government, for just doing government-y things, for being government. Not any particular government, just government. They've given us AUKUS, ScoMo's AUKUS, embraced by Labor. The worst deal, the biggest stitch-up since the Trojan horse. David McBride's just about to have his appeal in court on Monday. He's in jail, the whistleblower. None of the people that murdered the Afghanis are in jail, but David's in jail. Plonked in jail by the government. His appeal's coming. We probably can't make it to Canberra ourselves because some bloke in the government is suing us. This is the same government which is trying to put whistleblower Richard Boyle, who did the right thing, in jail for doing the right thing. And of course the government which won't intervene in the Lend-Lease fraud case because whistleblower Tony Watson did the right thing. Went to the tax office and said this is a scam. He's already pulled back $100 million into the national coffers, Tony, because Lend-Lease has been busted by the ATO and had to pay it back thanks to Tony's whistleblowing. There's another $200 million to come at least. but he's lost his home, fighting the man, fighting the blue chip board of Lend-Lease, the big end of town, PwC, the advisor to the deal in question, KPMG, the auditor, they've all ganged up on him, and so he's lost his home. We're going to do something on that next week with David McBride because they've got to do something about this, the government. Scam of the week. Please like, share and comment in the section below, and if you wouldn't mind, subscribe, because hit the bell, because we want to get to 100,000, because apparently YouTube gives you a plaque or something. I don't know what else is in it. Probably not much money, but a plaque. Let's get that plaque.